Welcome to the Good Business Dufferin podcast, hosted by the Dufferin Board of Trade through our social enterprise, the Dufferin Biz Hub. Our podcast is based on our belief that small businesses have the power to drive positive change in our community. Our conversations with local experts will help your business thrive, and our talks with community leaders will inspire you to make a difference in Dufferin County. Whether you're looking to grow your business, strengthen our community, or hopefully both, we've got you covered.
Welcome back to another episode of the Good Business Dufferin podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Lamb, the Communications Manager here at the Dufferin Board of Trade and the Dufferin Biz Hub. And today we're doing things a little differently. I'm so excited to welcome today's guest, someone many of you might recognize if you attended our recent industry lunch, Daniel Lewis. Daniel is an award-winning entrepreneur, a customer experience expert, a motivational storyteller, and the founder of TY Daniel. From humble beginnings to serving King Charles III, Daniel's journey is nothing short of inspiring. In today's episode, we'll dive deeper into Daniel's story, uncovering the real secrets to business success, leadership lessons from his experience, and the practical tips we can all use to grow our businesses and organizations. If you're looking for some inspiration and real actionable advice, you're going to love this conversation. Let's get started. All right. So, Daniel, I wanted to sort of get to know more of your journey. A lot of feedback that we got from the event where you were a keynote speaker was
Yes.
really good. So, we're hoping to dive a little bit deeper with this. So, can you take us back to the very beginning? What inspired you to become an entrepreneur, and what were some of your very first steps?
Yes. First off, thank you so much for having me. It's so good to reconnect with you again. And I'm so glad to hear that people did get value from my keynote, which is always great. So dialing all the way back, wow. It's always a tricky question because it's like, at what point do I pull from? I think there were signs that I would have pursued entrepreneurship from a very, very young age. But I think what was kind of a turning point. So first off, I never knew what entrepreneurship was. I never
Yeah.
knew that was a term, didn't know anything about it. But what I did know is that I loved to create things. I loved to bring people together, and I loved to perform. And using those three things from high school days, I was always trying things. So we used to have back in the day these sweatbands that, sports athletes would wear, the ballers would wear. I started using fabric crayons and markers and designing different designs on, Nike wristbands, and then headbands. Then I started a clothing line where I was making custom airbrush T-shirts, and we were doing that with Timberland boots and then clothing until we started doing interior for people's cars. Again, it was more just exercise and creativity, giving people something they can be happy about. And I didn't know that that was going to translate in my as I was growing up into entrepreneurship, but that definitely set the stage for me to say to myself, I want to do something in business and run my own business. The first taste of entrepreneurship um, formally was the tea company. And how that started was when I was working before starting the tea company, I was working as a franchisee in training for Domino's Pizza. So the goal was that I was going through this training program to open up my own Domino's pizza shop. And I remember going out to try and win contracts for pizza days at schools. And what that meant was I'd take some pizza, go with a contract and say, hey, we're Domino's, we're your local Domino's. Can we, get your business this pizza school year? And they would sign up so easily. They're just like, oh, yeah, we love Domino's, sign. And that meant thousands of dollars for our pizza shop. And I remember I was with a friend one day and I was walking back from that. And I'm like, it's so simple to get these contracts signed. We're just going in, meeting people, smiling, and we give them an offer, and boom. What if we came up with our own product or something where we could bring a contract to people and say, hey, this is what we offer the same way? Then I started to think, I think I want to do something on my own. Long story short, eventually that started to push me towards entrepreneurship and starting my own business.
Okay, that's really neat to hear because, you're talking about how it led from like creativity and stuff. Because when you're younger, I feel like you don't really, like you said, you didn't know what entrepreneurship meant.
Right.
So as a kid, you're not thinking, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur
This entrepreneur, no, that's not
and
it.
like
It's
make a
packaged up
business.
differently.
Yeah, exactly. So I always wondered this, ever since meeting you in February, but why tea? Is there a story behind it?
There is. So the story goes like this, and I'll try to condense it because it's a big story, but basically, so from about 13, 14 years old, a passion of mine has always been music. So I was in the music industry for many years. That started off as a rap hip hop artist. I was trying to be the next Drake or whatever, and I talk about that in my keynote. So I was, pursuing music. Then, as I started to grow, I became a Canadian songwriter. So a registered Canadian songwriter means I compose songs, try to sell them to artists that you might hear about, and that's how we get paid. Didn't really sell any big chart songs, but I was just engulfed in the music industry. I went into rock, dabbled with music for many years. In 20, when I was 21, um, on account of some lyrics in one of my songs, and this was many years after being involved in the hip hop scene. But I went through a near tragic incident where I was the victim of a near fatal stabbing.
Oh gosh.
And this was because of some things I said in my song. Mind you, I was not an angel. I was not the most positive rapper. So I said, things in songs, but yeah, just, across the street from my house, wrong crowd, wrong time. And basically, I was at this really low point in my life where I suffered many stab wounds and I was fighting for my life. Fast forward the gory details. When I was in the hospital, um, I feel like my spider senses just opened up. And what I saw was, wait a minute, Dan, you're 21 years old. Here you are, you just went through this near fatal tragedy. I started to look at all the people that were around me that jumped in to help save my life. So the pilots, because I had to get airlifted, the paramedics, the doctors, my girlfriend at the time, who's my wife now, everybody, the people who clean the hospitals. And it made sense to me. Their life, their purpose, what they do, their job, it made sense to me. I'm like, they've impacted my life based on what they do. So the person cleaning the hallways in the hospital, you're doing that so that when paramedics are rushing through with a patient, they have a clear passage. The pilot, paramedic pilot, you went to school to study how to fly helicopters, like Orange Ambulance, to help people like me in remote areas or people who need urgent care. So I started to think about people's purpose. And then I asked myself the golden question: Dan, you're 21. What is your purpose? And what impact, if this was to be fatal, what impact did you leave behind? And I hated the answer at that point in my life because it was nothing. I was just making rap songs and wasting my life. So I promised myself, and sorry for the long back end here, but I promised myself that if and when I get out of this situation, which thank God I did, I'm going to find some way of impacting people's lives in a positive way. So when I got out of the hospital, I stopped drinking alcohol, stopped smoking, stopped doing all that stuff. And that was right at the time David's Tea had started. And trading out alcohol and bad substances, I was introduced to tea on a casual walk through the mall, became obsessed with tea, spent way too much money on it. And then a few months later, questioned myself, what if I take everything I've ever learned from the music industry, my new passion of drinking tea, because the health benefits and all that, and my purpose of trying to impact people's life in a positive way. What if I take all of that and just create like a really cool tea company? So a year out of the hospital, that was Tea by Daniel.
Wow, that is so inspiring.
Yes,
And
kind of a roller coaster, but
yeah, that explains though. So I think 2016, no, 2014, I think, is when I started drinking tea.
yeah,
Still early in high school. And I remember the two tea spots in Brampton were Tea by Daniel and then
yeah,
David's Tea. So
exactly.
like, yeah, oh, that's really awesome to like know the story about that. Um,
Hmm.
so, a lot of people know this, starting a business is tough. And something that stood out to me during your keynote presentation was how you talked about your failures. You weren't afraid to sort of embrace them. So how did you push through your failures and how did you become, I guess, comfortable in embracing like the mistakes?
Absolutely. Great question. And I think for anybody in business, entrepreneurship, in life, the mentality that I took on when it comes to failures, well, there's two main things really. First off, I've never failed. And what I mean by that is failure to me is when you stop. I've never stopped. Now, I have been unsuccessful many times, many times, because when you're trying a lot of things, it's only fair that there's going to be times you just come up short, it didn't work, didn't go as planned, external forces and things happening that are beyond your control. So I've been unsuccessful many times, but I've never failed because I don't view failure that way. And so by changing my mindset about failure, I've positioned myself to always become a student of the experiences that I go through. So, for instance, when I had to close my stores, there was one time I had 4 or 5 stores open. I had to close those. What can I learn? That's how I take it. Yes, it sucks. Yes, it sometimes costs you a lot. Yes, it's frustrating. But what can I learn? What can I learn about me? What can I learn about this industry? What can I learn about the world? I'm always positioning myself to learn and do better to keep going. And so that's why I'm not afraid to talk about the failures or I actually embrace them because I think it's become the best school teacher, right? It's almost like, okay, let me learn something else from this. And
Yeah.
so it has moved me along. So that's the main reason is that I don't view failure as being unsuccessful. I think if I stop, if I say, okay, wow, I'm done, it didn't work, that is the only time I've failed at something. And then I also believe that actually, no, I think that is really it. There's so many other angles I can go, but I think the core message is if you're in business, see failures as lessons and position yourself as a student, and you'll be okay embracing in the unsuccessful challenges.
Wow, I never thought of it in that kind of perspective where, because when you search failures, the synonyms that come up are mistakes. And,
Yeah.
I never thought of it as two separate things because, they're always like hand in hand. But thinking of failure in that kind of perspective just really shifts it a lot.
Yeah, and if I could add just one more point, because I saw this a couple days ago, it was a visual, basically visualizing exactly what I'm saying about failure is so there's these, say, marbles, and there's a hill, and the hill goes and then eventually goes into this ditch and then comes out on the other side. And so the attempts are these marbles. So you're trying things, trying this business, trying this idea, trying this marketing campaign, trying to get memberships. And so it just keeps falling into the ditch, falling into the ditch, all your attempts. Eventually, the ditch gets filled with all your attempts. And when you try that next thing, it pushes one of the marbles out of the ditch, out onto the other side to roll down. And so eventually, if you keep trying and keep going, one of those attempts are going to make you successful or turn into success. And I was like, wow, that is so powerful. But if you stop, then on the 10th time or 20th time, you're like, oh, that's enough. You didn't know that it just needed
Yeah.
21 tries for you to push out. And so I keep my mind in that place.
I really like that. Wow, I'm gonna keep that in mind, and I hope the people who are watching like can get something from that too, because that's really good for like the kind of mindset for a business owner to have. Because you're right,
Absolutely.
like there's so many things that you try, especially if you're an entrepreneur, and it's just kind of the message like don't give up.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. So, my next question is when you think about your early years, is there a secret or core principle you feel that you made the biggest difference in your success?
Absolutely. Yes. And this is my umbrella message in every aspect of business, leadership, and even just as a human being. I believe, let me personalize it. The biggest thing for me, so when I got into business, I didn't have a business background. I had dropped out of high school. I didn't go to college. I didn't go to university. I didn't have those kind of pillars to propel me and give me an edge in the business landscape. I was very new. And when I would stand at trade shows, when I would go to business networking events, I didn't have those things to pull on. people were saying things to me. Like I remember I was in a conversation, somebody's like, so what are your the major KPIs that you're looking at? And I had no idea what KPIs meant. I'm just like, sorry, what did you mean? And so that was me at networking events because I couldn't fake it. I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
When I tried to go that way and try to talk the business jargon and be businessy, I didn't see any success. I didn't see any traction. I was just another drop in the bucket. I didn't stand out at trade shows. I didn't stand out at all. The moment I went all in on my personality, because I believe our personality is our superpower, our skill, and it's so diverse. So, I mean, all the experiences from my sandbox days as a child up that shape me and make me me, the moment I took that and started to infuse it into what I do at the trade show, in the networking event, in my community, which for me was theatrics, music, fun, bringing people together, performing. Once I pulled on those things, boom, at the trade show, we're the top booth. At the networking event, people wanted to get to know me. Who's that guy dressed in Waldo socks? Right? Like that was it for me. It wasn't my business acumen, it wasn't my product, it was me. And so I always encourage entrepreneurs, and it doesn't mean you have to be charismatic and extroverted, but what is real to you, what is authentic to you, find ways to infuse that into your life, into your business, into your community, into your job. You will then start to rise above and people will take notice of you that this person is such a great listener. This person is so good with numbers and analytical. This person is so funny. This person warms a room, positive. Those things. That was the game changer for me when it came to the early days. And to this day, that's what I use as a speaker. That's what I use in my marketing. I use personality because I think it helps me stand out.
Yeah. Wow, that's really like neat to hear because honestly, I think I mentioned to you when I saw you at the luncheon, I used to get tea at your shop, and one thing that always stuck with me was how you write, like, you ask someone's name and you make it personalized. Like, you know when you go to Starbucks and, like, they
Yeah.
ask your name, but it's always spelt wrong,
Yeah.
but, you guys take the time to, like, think of a word that, like, goes with your name, and I
Yeah.
just yeah, that's something that, like, really always stuck with me up till
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
Because, and you see, I mean, you, first off, thank you for sharing that because this was years ago, maybe, but it means something because in business, in life, we are dealing with people. You are a person. So I'm going to take the time to personalize your cup. I'm going to tell you about you. So if your name is Jamie Lynn, you are Jupiter Jamie Lynn, you're out of this world. You know what that means to a person? So once you start to realize that you're dealing with people, it makes business such a beautiful place to be and connect and bring people together. Um, and not just seeing titles, not just seeing transactions and customers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So now I kind of want to transition a bit and talk about building a business that lasts. So my next question is, many small businesses struggle to move from surviving to thriving. So in your opinion, what separates the businesses that succeed from those that don't?
Question. Great question. Because the numbers sometimes when you think about like business success rate, failure rate can be scary, especially for somebody just getting into business. Like the chances of you being open after a year or 5 years, sometimes it's daunting. But when I look over the business landscape, what I think makes the difference, the businesses that struggle to grow, I think it has a lot to do with the mindset. And that's not to shame anybody or any business. I just think when you, I know there's the term small business, but when you think small, you stay small. And I think from day one thing that I tried to cultivate was a mentality of growth, a growth mindset. That even though we are one shop, even if we are one pop up, that doesn't mean we have to operate like a small shop. We can still operate and have a big impact. So when we got to serve King Charles, at that time, we only had one little tea shop in downtown Brampton, but we were doing big things. We were promoting in a big way. And I think small businesses have to cultivate that kind of growth mindset, emphasize things like your brand, your story. Don't have just a generic website. You see what big companies do. take some examples. Your budget may constrain you a bit, I understand, but I just think it's a mindset first that you have to have that. We may be here now, but we deserve to be where all the other brands are. And once you start thinking that way and operating that way, people take notice and you start to grow. That's number one. Um, another thing is I don't think a lot of small businesses are great storytellers. And it takes a great story for you to bring people in and bring people together. So you probably do have a great product. You probably do offer a great service, but so does everybody else in the world. And only the ones that are on the mountaintop telling the most impactful, captivating story are getting the customers.
Yeah.
If you think just turning on your open sign and putting a post saying this is our price is going to bring people in, it doesn't fly. The storytellers are out there saying, hey, we are a tea shop. That's what you might think. But we are actually more than a tea shop. We're an experience. And this is why, and this is that. And all of a sudden, people's interests are piqued. They come. So I think business owners, small businesses have to have a growth mindset, become great storytellers. And then you have to adjust your risk appetite. I think to grow, it's a risky thing to grow, right? And sometimes launching out, and if we can go back to that first question about failure, if you could adjust your mindset there on what failure looks like, you'll be a little bit more inclined to taking risks that can propel you higher. And that's what we've done is because we don't view failure that way, we take more risk. Because we take more risk, we achieve more and we explore more opportunities. So growth mindset, become a storyteller, and take more risks.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I've been noticing a common theme is a lot of it starts with your mindset. And you mentioned like businesses taking risks. A lot of people are scared to take risk and stuff. So, yeah, like really starting with your mindset
Hmm.
and like changing the way you think is a really good advice for like
Thank you.
businesses. Yeah.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Um, but so my next question is so you built a brand that stands out and creates strong emotion connections with customers. So what advice would you give to businesses trying to build that same kind of loyalty? I know you mentioned personality, but was there anything else?
Absolutely. So I know this can probably be very broad, but what I like to do is condense emotional connection between a brand and its customer or consumer or client into three categories. And I think sometimes just understanding that which one you fit can help drive your message, your brand, and then customer help you connect with the right target customers. So I believe brands can market themselves or tell stories in three different ways. Number one, emotional connection. And when I say emotions, think World Vision, think Coca-Cola Christmas commercial. What they do is they speak to this part in us that like Coca-Cola, when you see that truck and the Santa Claus and the polar bear, it's like, ooh, it's Christmas time, I want a Coca-Cola. It just feels good. When you think of World Vision, they tap on the emotion of uh I don't want to say sadness, but more I want to help. I want to, I want to build, I want to impact. That's what they tug on. I mean, sometimes based on what they show us, it affects people more than others, but they are dealing in the emotional landscape, right? And so, is that your brand? Find that out. If is that your messaging? Is that your story? Because if it is, and you're able to authentically put that out there, you're going to attract your audience, the right audience. So I think emotions. The second, I believe, is humor. People love to laugh. They might not be they might not quickly talk about the tea, the taste, the quality, but they will talk about what they remember that made them laugh. People share jokes and text like you got to watch this. That's why TikTok is so viral. This
Yeah.
is so funny. The emotion of laughter is a powerful thing, and that's why companies and brands like Doritos go all in on that. Old Spice, during the Super Bowl. Is humor your thing? Is that authentic to you? That could be a driver for your brand and a narrative to go all in on. And people will take it, share it, and it will help you grow. And then the other thing is if you don't fall into that kind of emotional context or humor, the other one is informational, technical informational. And those are the companies and brands that just list specs. Four-wheel drive, triple suspension, da 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 da, because it appeals to people who just want those specifics. And your brand might fall there. People like you because you just tell them the benefits and features. But I think you need to know. And you could do a mixture of all, but lead with one that is authentic to your brand and that resonates with your target market. When you don't know, every day you're just throwing things out there. Today, let's talk about how much we charge. Today, let's talk about an event we're going to, and it just doesn't hit with customers. So, for instance, we use humor as a big part, and then we use emotional connection, creating experiences. That's why our tagline, refreshed now, is Tea by Daniel, not just served, experience. So we turn everything into an experience.
The next part of this podcast, I wanted to sort of dive into actionable advice that you can give for today's entrepreneurs. So, the world of business is always changing. What do you think are the most important skills or mindsets entrepreneurs need to succeed in 2025?
Yeah. In 2025, um, two main things that I would say. Number one, I'm just a big believer that what goes in is what will come out. And so I read a lot of books, consume a lot of educational content, business content. Like when I'm at the gym, when I'm driving, I'm listening to books. And those books are, bios of entrepreneurs who have succeeded, tried, failed. You get their whole roadmap right in your ears or right in front of your eyes. I think that is so critical. So read a lot of good content and books. Sitting down watching Netflix or just watching entertainment is not going to help move your business along. So I always say consume more education than entertainment every day because that's what's going to go in. That's one thing. So personal development, number one. Number two, do not ignore AI and the technology boom that is reshaping the world, not just business, but the world. Don't ignore it. And you can push back on it, of course, but it's still coming. And so find ways to get educated on AI so that you can use it to your advantage. A lot of things that used to take a long time, be difficult to figure out, can now be figured out instantly. That is a huge tool in your toolbox if you get with it. And so spend some time, learn it, learn how to manipulate it, learn how to use it to your advantage, to scale, to operate more efficiently. AI is something that in 2025, as an entrepreneur, you must be utilizing because it can be a game changer for you. Um, and then so that's AI and personal development. But if I was to add one third thing in there, it's a book I'm reading right now called Blue Ocean Strategy. And because the world is so different, like actually very different than it ever has been, Blue Ocean Strategy is an opportunity that I think entrepreneurs of today can learn about and put to work. And Blue Ocean Strategy is basically instead of just looking within an industry, your industry, say for example, I'm in tea, looking in the tea industry to say, what can I do? How can I innovate? Look completely outside of your industry and see and try to implement something that has never been done or that your industry would never fathom. They would never think to do this. Because I think within that innovation are where the businesses and brands of tomorrow are going to thrive. Doing things that your industry would just never consider. So AI, personal development, and trying to find a blue ocean strategy for your business. And you can look it up as well to get more context on it.
Awesome. Also, I just wanted to mention, I love how you talked about AI because that, like, for us, like, we're constantly doing things on the go. We're a small team. There's only three of us.
Right.
And AI has helped us so much, like, get the work that we need done. So, yeah, I love how you mentioned that.
Yeah, it's a must nowadays, and it's only getting more and more advanced. So you want to ride that wave for sure.
Yeah. Um, So I wanted to also talk a little bit about your experience with the Board of Trade. So during your time as the board chair, you work closely with many different businesses and nonprofits. So what are some of the biggest insights you gained from that leadership role?
Yeah, that was a great experience for me. And I went into that to be a student, not just a leader. I actually more went in to be a student, um, because I've always been an entrepreneur hitting the ground, running, trying things. But what this role helped me to do was to get a more bird's eye view, governance perspective of how business operates in my local community. Getting down and talking to businesses, seeing their struggles, their pains, their wins, and seeing how, being the voice of business, how we can help. So I learned a lot about all levels of government and the sometimes sad disconnect between government and the needs of business. That was something that was very evident. Businesses are looking for connection, they're looking for opportunity, and they're looking for help, and sometimes that's not what they're noticing is coming from the different levels of government. So bridging that gap is something that we were really advocating for, and during my term that was something we were really trying to push for. Progress was like the theme, to really move forward. One thing that I did notice during my term that I was really trying to help advocate for was in our city there was a narrative that was out there in the media, out there in the news, and sometimes the news just highlights bad things. If you keep if you keep putting bad narratives out there, it eventually starts to affect everybody, residents and businesses. And I think that's what the businesses were facing, is that there's this dark cloud over our city about this going wrong and this going wrong, this going wrong. How do we grow a business within this climate? So one of the things that I was really talking to businesses with about was owning the narrative. That is my main thing. Whoever controls the narrative has the power to shift behaviors. So we have to become a strong voice as a chamber, as a board of trade, as a community, as a city, as entrepreneurs, as a business. You have to have a stronger voice than the negative voices that are trying to manipulate you. And we have to tell better stories, highlight successes, yes, highlight challenges as well, but what are we doing about it? And the more that we do that, we can remove the gray cloud that is hovering over our city, that this is not the place to build a business, this is not a place to grow or invest. So I was really, really big on that. And I think when you own the narrative or control the narrative, that is when you can benefit from that upside. So I was trying to make that connection between what was happening during my term, which was it was a rough time, and the needs of businesses. It was control the narrative. But businesses are still optimistic, but they're looking for connection and opportunity. That's what I analyzed during my term.
That's awesome. And it's a really neat perspective to have you talk about your experience as like the chair and
Mm.
also like owning like your own like business as well because not a lot of people get to experience that, right? So it's really
Right, to be on both sides, you
yeah,
kind of you know what the entrepreneurs and the business owners are facing, and then you're also here advocating to try and make those changes. So when we sit down with government and the premier and things like that, the conversations, they were coming from a place of, I understand what they're feeling. Can you
yeah.
talk to that? Like anything down the pipeline that's going to help. So yeah, it was good context, good balance, and I learned a lot.
So we are running a bit short on time. So I did want to ask just a few more questions.
Sure.
What is one small action that every business owner or nonprofit listening today can take to start building a stronger, more successful organization?
Commit to telling one story a day on the platform that resonates best with your business. And I know it seems really simple, but if you can just show up every day and tell a story, you build an audience in an impactful way. You become an expert in your field, in your product, in your niche. And that has been a game changer for me, is just one story a day. So on LinkedIn, I make one post a day. Social media like Instagram and stuff like that, I may not do it every day because LinkedIn is more beneficial for what I do, but it's just the consistency. Today, tell a story. Don't sell anything. Don't promote anything. I didn't say that. Tell a story. So if you sell mugs, oh, there it is. Yeah, if you sell mugs, tell us about the mug today. Tomorrow, tell us about where it came from and maybe about that region. Show us the behind the scenes process in how you do what you do. If you just become a storyteller, the consumers want less stores and more stories. And that's kind of where the sentiment is. So that's one small action that they can take today. Tell a story.
Before I let you go, Daniel, so I did want to know, what's next? Do you have any exciting projects underway or events that you're going to be presenting at?
So I haven't made any official announcement about this, but we are just about wrapping up a deal where we are going to be opening 3 T by Daniels. Um, yeah, so this is, you're the first actually to hear this, so this is cool. They're going to be different style T by Daniels because we're going to be working with the municipal government in our town in Simcoe County to build T by Daniel concessions in some of the government recreation centers. So where the YMCA skating rink will have a tea by Daniel. So that will be an extended menu of not just tea, but coffee, blended beverages, foods, fries, things like that. So it's going to be the first time we're doing, an extended menu, but we're really excited to kind of give that utility and activate these spaces within our community. So that it's not fully finalized yet. It's like 90% of the way there, but we'll make an announcement really soon. And that's on the T side. On the speaking side of things, coming up soon, I'll be speaking in Connecticut, in the States with organizations, St. Louis, Missouri, Alberta. So I'll be going all over. So if you follow me on daniel.m.lewis on Instagram, all my adventures will be there.
Awesome. Um, so how about for any businesses that are looking to connect with you or have you speak at their events? What's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, I would always say you can email me at info@iamdaniel.ca. That's direct email. And my team, I have an agent who deals with all inquiries. So that's one direct way. You could also go to my website, iamdaniel.ca, just to explore topics, see what stands out. I also customize topics to industries and associations. So you can always just check out the website, then reach out. I always make the connection to my agent and my team. So those are the best ways to contact me. I am Daniel.ca.
Again, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your wisdom, story, and your energy with our community. I've learned so much about you in this past 20 minutes, and hearing your journey shows that with the right mindset, focus, and community spirit, business owners can not only succeed, but also truly make a lasting impact. So, to our listeners, whether you're just starting out or scaling up, we hope today's conversation sparked new ideas and fresh motivation. Remember, the secret to success isn't one big thing. It's daily commitment to keep growing, learning, and connecting with the people you serve. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with someone who can use a little inspiration today. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.